Hello, hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Still a couple of people to join, but in the meantime, today, we can take a deeper dive in 119. I demoed it on Wednesday, but we can look at it more from looking at specific things that you might have regarding 119. Other than that, I'll do my best to fit in Dale's shoes and run the usual topics as well. So just an introduction. I think we will have new faces in this event. The guys from the government of Bermuda mentioned they will be joining, so hopefully we'll see them here soon. So this let's say is the other side of our community weekly community event. Whereas on Wednesdays in the low-code cafe we are mostly presenting stuff techniques. With this Campfire, we get together to discuss and share these techniques in an open format between all of us. This event is being recorded. It's available on our YouTube channel together with everything that's in there, low-code cafe and other training videos. So if you are not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Lots of good goodies in there. So let's see. For today, as mentioned, I'm available to go much deeper in 119 on specific topics. But in the meantime, if you have any topics that are on your mind, I would love to discuss them, and I will do my best to give my input as well, of course. So let's see. Of course. The guidelines for this webinar. Let's mute when we are not speaking, as we all have cats and dogs nowadays. You'll probably see the cat asking for attention during this event. And any questions on topics? I think Dale's doing a very good job at collecting feedback from the community forums as well, the forms that you submit through this link. And put them on this agenda. And in fact, I think we have a couple of them already submitted. Cool. So let's see. I don't see any new faces today, but if anyone wants to introduce themselves, I think this is the time. I really wish the guys from Bermuda was here, but if they join, I'll make sure to introduce them. They had very good questions, especially around Banjaro. They are looking at an interesting pattern to split their public website from the content management side. So then they are looking at Banjaro as well, and I thought that the experience in this group with all the various tools out there would be very useful for him. Cool. So let's see. First call. Anything you'd want to touch on today?
I have a question.
Sure.
This is just something that I'm dealing with right now, and I'm just curious if anyone else has dealt with this or anything of that nature. And it's basically around JSON executing a my token in a Razor script. If I execute it with the old methodology of the brackets and putting that in quotations, returning a JSON string is perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
If I use the app dot token, or the namespace dot token name notation and return that and put that into a string, it doesn't work. When I try to parse that JSON, it fails. It seems like the data is coming back two different ways, and I can't quite pinpoint what the issue is.
So Ben, is it just when you use the workspace you know, prefix in the reference that it's coming back wrong?
Right. When I use in the Razor script, if I use the dot notation, not the bracketed notation, the dot notation call to the other token, which returns the JSON string, something is formatted incorrectly in it. It looks correct when I print it out. You know, when I get it out as, I mean, I ran a test really quick and I did both types and the data looks identical, but there's got to be something formatted wrong, because when I send the bracketed version to, what is that, the Newtonsoft, to parse out the JSON, it works perfectly fine. But if I use the same string that came from the dot notation, it fails.
Interesting.
I don't know if maybe the dot notation double quote that it's using is a different ASCII character. It's not the traditional double quote. I don't know, but like I said, visually it looks the same, but JSON Newtonsoft doesn't like it when it's the dot notation version.
Yeah.
Ben, Jerry here. Been here, not exactly in your circumstance, but I have interfaced with a lot of different entities with JSON and et cetera, and created a lot of JSON. And in one particular case with authorized.net, I never was able to figure out why. I just figured out what. And there was an embedded question mark at the very top of the JSON string, even outside of the bracket that represents an array or whatever. There was, and you couldn't see it. And I ended up using, you know, there's 1,000 of these online JSON validators and formatters where you can just paste your JSON string into a window and it'll analyze it and make sure that it's correct. The one that I use most often is called Best JSON Formatter. And it's a great way just to grab that set of that JSON text that you have coming in that's failing, punch it in there and let them have an opinion on what's in it, because it'll find hidden characters and it'll find weirdness like that. But to this day, I have never found who's putting that question mark in. It's either DNN Sharp or it's authorized.net, because it's certainly not me. And I have to strip it out. After I parse the JSON, I have to sniff that thing out, strip it, and then everything's fine. I realize that's a little different circumstance, but I was just curious, since you're looking at the two JSON strings and comparing them, and visually to the eye, you're saying you can't see it. It's just seems okay, right? If you haven't put it in one of those JSON parser online things, give that a try and see if it exposes something.
Yeah, I actually use JSON Viewer by Code Beautify, and both of them paste it in.
They like it okay?
Yeah, they both show the data. You know,
Yeah.
it parses it out and it, you know, makes it look all nice and neat instead of minified.
Exactly.
And it looks fine. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I know the script that I'm using, because it's Razor script, I know quotes have to be escaped, double quoted.
Okay.
So I've done that as well. And I don't know. I'm completely at a loss why it would work when I use the old square bracket notation and I just put that in quotes, as opposed to namespace dot whatever my token name is dot toString and put that into a string.
Does your setup look something like this, Ben?
Correct. Right. So that var A, that would perfectly be fine. It would parse using Newtonsoft, no problem. That var B crashes.
Yeah. So I think with me here, I have a different problem because I already have codes in here. So maybe let me change this to single quotes. No, something. Oh, yeah. So then let me output A and let me output B. So yeah, they look identical. And you are saying when you try to do something to pass this, to another token, that's when you have problems?
It's when I use the variable. So that variable A and B, I then, in that same Razor script, would supply that into the Newtonsoft JSON parser, the JObject parse. And I just put that variable in as the parameter, and A will go through fine, parses it, and I can use it or whatever. I try to send in B.
Yeah. Did you try to do something like this to string?
Yep.
Tried it. Okay.
Yeah, because if I don't do toString, what it returns is an object.
Yep.
And then that'll crash.
That's a very weird one indeed.
And it's just, it's kind of problematic because what you showed is a simplified version, but that token that returns the JSON also requires parameters, which are variables that are defined earlier up in the Razor. So if I use the square bracket notation, I can't put those variables in as parameters because they have to be part of the original string so that the myTokens parser can see it and replace it. So I would rather have the dot notation. Otherwise, I have to jump through some ridiculous hoops to get the square notation to work correctly.
But are you getting an error from Newtonsoft, or what is the that you're observing?
Let me pull it up. It tells me it's not very explicit. It just inner exception message, unexpected character encountered while parsing value. And then that's it. Okay. There really is no further information. The error happens when because one of the parameters that I'm trying to pull out is called days. So it's when I do the parsing and I say, paren quote days, give me the value of days, that's when it crashes. So it's just basically saying encounter while parsing value, and then it says path days, line 1. That's it. Okay. So it doesn't really tell me specifically what's wrong with the JSON.
And did you try enabling debug, looking at logs further to see if maybe there's a better error, a more explicit error?
That I haven't, actually. So I will try the debug mode.
Yeah, that might reveal additional information. And I think with debug mode, and I think this was discussed 2 weeks ago, you can actually open that file with Visual Studio, attach to the process and debug it, debug the script. So then you can go with the debugger line by line, see what's in there, what it returns.
Hold on, where would that show up, the debugger? The line by line?
So for example, if I enable debug, let's say this, and then on disk somewhere, I should be having a, let me pull this thing. So then under, I think under desktop module, under maybe DNN sharp tokens scripts. Yeah, so I have my test token here. And of course, if I open this in Visual Studio and I attach to the process, open, do I have Visual Studio open here? Yes. I'll just try this. Doesn't work. Just copy that. Just opening it in Visual Studio. So now I should be able to attach to the process. And you see here clearly the difference between the two. So this one gets replaced before the script is generated. So this one just goes in a string, whereas this is a proper .NET variable. So this one is always, let's say, better, more efficient, and I think safer to use the dot notation. Okay, so now let's see, debug attached to process. So now I'm not sure if I have debugging enabled, we'll see. But now if I test it again, it didn't fire. So maybe maybe I didn't do something. Like for example, web config, maybe it's not configured properly. Because normally you have to enable debugging somewhere. Debug. Oh, it is debugging. Yes, I'm not sure what happens then. I should be able to hit the breakpoints. Yeah. I'm sure there's a tutorial there, or I can ask the developers as a follow-up to this. But normally, this is how you can do some debugging.
Perfect. Yep, that's what I needed. Thank you.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, I think he didn't compile it or something. That's why he didn't attach to the debug. Oh, okay. Yeah, so probably I did something wrong, but I'm sure I can find the documentation. But it generates these, let's say, PDB files, and these PDB files are used for debugging. But apparently something happened here. Cool.
I think that's the same thing that I just had. I got an error when I tried to do the debug and ran it. Something about it couldn't write the file, so I think it might be a permissions error on the folder.
Might be, yes, or yeah. So but apparently might be a bug. So maybe we just uncover the bug. I'm writing it down. Okay, let's see. Anything else on anybody's mind? Okay. Then let's move on to the 1.19 release. So we are scheduled to do the beta today. I think we are there. I will send an email later today. I think there were many different glitches that we kept addressing, but our priority for the past week has been making sure that nothing breaks. So the Bootstrap Tree part still works without regressions. And we've already updated a couple of our systems. We identify more issues, fix them, so now it looks stable. On Monday, we'll upgrade our console and the DNN Sharp side. So that's like the ultimate test for us because those are very complex systems. But other than that, let's say the stability, the regression part feels like we are there with it. And then, of course, the Bootstrap 5 part is called experimental. It kind of works out of the box, but again, not all the settings were implemented, so on custom setups, I think there will be lots of smaller glitches. But I think that's why we need your help during the beta testing to both make sure that there's no regressions on one hand, but on the other hand, look at Bootstrap 5 to see how it behaves in various scenarios. What are the gaps? What are the challenges? Because 120, it will be full Bootstrap. So the more we identify the problems, the better it will be in 120. So any questions that you have about 119? Do you want to go deep into something? I have my instance here, so I can look at whatever we need to look.
Yeah, Bogdan, I had a question.
Sure.
You had mentioned on Wednesday that you were decoupling Bootstrap from the modules. And I think that you also said there was going to be a delay before doing that. Could you describe that again, please?
Sure. So I think, what we are doing now, so instead of form loading Bootstrap or grid loading Bootstrap or so on, the Bootstrap will be the responsibility of the skin. So of course, our skin loads the Bootstrap, but in case, let's say you have a skin that doesn't load Bootstrap for some reason, there are some easy ways to load it. Like, for example, I can show you how we do it. So for example, in the default skin, I think, let's look at default Bootstrap 5. And it's pretty much the same in Cilion, I think. There are these lines here, that include what's happening here, my selection. And here we just renamed, so maybe let me open the old one because I don't think we renamed it. Yeah, it's the DNN CSS include, so you use this in the skin, and then it just includes the Bootstrap CSS and then the Bootstrap JS. What's happening here? Something weird is happening. I click in one place and select it in a different place. Anyways.
Try hitting your shift key.
Yeah. I think maybe
sometimes it freaks out. I've had that happen.
No, but I click and it goes, you see? It's like I select a different line. Anyways. Yeah, so Bootstrap Tree CSS, Bootstrap Tree JS, and if you copy this to any skin, it will just load it, So for example, here we are loading our own version of Bootstrap, but if we look at, for example, the Cilion skin, portals, default skin, Cilion, let's look at any of them actually. And actually, they load it through another file, which I think it's called add files, this one. Yeah, so this is the includes. So basically here you see the same thing, only they load it from the skin folder. Bootstrap means CSS and Bootstrap means JS. And with the same technique, you could be loading it from the CDN. Which I think it's better nowadays to load it from the CDN unless you did have a custom version of it. So in 1.19, it's still there. The functionality is still there, but just for the Bootstrap tree. So the Bootstrap tree will work as before. It will load the Bootstrap by itself if the checkbox is set in the settings. So basically, here in the settings, I think it's here. So if this is set, it will include it, as it did until now. The Bootstrap 5 will never include it, the new template. And this will remove in 120. So in 120, this Bootstrap tree will also not include it. So then it will be the page responsibility to sort it out. But where we went to do the extra effort. So for example, let's say I switched this to Bootstrap 5, this form. I refresh this form because here I'm using Cilion. So let me remove this form first. Okay, refresh. Okay, because here I'm using Cilion, or maybe let me close this. Cilion knows Bootstrap 3, but the form needs Bootstrap 5, and then it shows this message whenever it doesn't have the right version on the page. So at least Bootstrap, the right version of Bootstrap is not there. And you can tell, for example, this field is broken because Bootstrap 5 is not there. So then you either switch back the form to Bootstrap 3 or upgrade your skin to a Bootstrap 5 version. I think we have our standard one, of course, which is the page builder Bootstrap 5. So now I will no longer see the message. And now everything looks good. But of course, if I do it the other way around, so now I switch back to Bootstrap 3, it will tell me the same thing. Both Bootstrap 3 and 5 are loaded on the page, which might result in unexpected behavior. I'm not sure who loads. Oh, the form loads Bootstrap Tree.
I think you still have it ticked. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is ticked, so now we have both versions. But if I untick this, so let's say this doesn't load Bootstrap Tree anymore, I will see a different message telling me that this form requires Bootstrap Tree to run. So we did a lot of effort to make sure that we identify all scenarios, and we tell builders, because this message is only displayed to people with edit permissions to the module, that they have to do something. And here we have a link to the Bootstrap version, either 3 or 5, with the instructions to put this in the skin file or in the page settings. You can also put this in the page settings.
Thank you. That helps. But you're also saying that the form needs Bootstrap 5 starting now, right?
Yes, the new template. The new template, yes.
Okay, so if we had a site that's been around a little while, it's got a Bootstrap 3 theme on it, but we want to upgrade the form, maybe we shouldn't upgrade the form until we had a new theme. Would that be
Exactly.
your statement?
Yeah.
Thank you.
One error that we didn't get to do some proper messaging for is when you have two forms on the page. Sorry, one with Bootstrap 3, one with Bootstrap 5. It will throw an ugly unrelated error. So let's put this on the page, and let me make this. I think this other one was Bootstrap 3. I'll make this Bootstrap 5. So if you have this combination, like you have not here. You have multiple forms on the page. One is Bootstrap 5, one is Bootstrap 3. You'll see this error, which is totally unintuitive. But we'll make a better job at showing a more intuitive message here to know what's the problem. They are not compatible. You cannot have both on a page, basically. It's either all the new one or all the old one.
Hey, Bogdan, with regard to, understand 3 and 5, but Bootstrap 4 and 5 are fairly close. Are we going to, is it still going to be the same thing? It has to be Bootstrap 5, or can you have a mix of 4 and 5?
We haven't tested it, but I suspect that Bootstrap 4 will work. We haven't tested it thoroughly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bogdan. That answers my questions. And I'd just like to comment, I saw the presentation on Wednesday, and the things that you've been doing with the list is quite impressive. Yeah, I saw a lot of nice things in there. I'll be looking forward to take advantage of.
Yep. But the listing will have the same issue. You need the Bootstrap 5 skin for it to run.
Yeah, and there was one other detail that I pulled out mentally while you were doing the presentation. You were talking about with Action Form now, we'll be able to do a more advanced layout of the fields on the form. And specifically, you said, maybe have 3 or 4 fields on the left and one taller one on the right.
Yeah.
That I've been jumping through hoops to make that happen on my own now, and I'm really excited about something like that.
Yeah. So I think that's, we don't support it through the interface yet, but let me show you a cool way in which you can do it. So for example, here I have a form that, actually, let's look at it, the layout. So I have a form with some fields, 2 fields here, 1 here, some here, so a custom layout. But let's say that I want to do something like this. I want the name to span 2 rows, right? So even though we don't have it in the interface yet, now it's very easy to do it via CSS with the CSS Grid. And that's one of the big things I would say. So for example, you see some styles here, grid row and grid column. These are CSS Grid styles. So if I just change this from 1 to 2, I'm not sure if it will make a big effect, because why not? Let's see. Grid row. Yeah, you see it spans all across, of course, this is just a text box. Maybe let's change it to a text area. That will make more sense. So I think it was the name. I don't think this is the form. Let me open it again. And just keep it open. So let's change the name to a text area. That will make more sense. Large text. Okay. So of course now you see it pushes this other one. We don't want that. You know, now it's just rows. This is a row. It broke my layout. You know? So let's do that thing again. So let's say this we want to split like that, you know, and you can see that now this spans for 2 rows and here is 1, 2 rows, you know. So now you can do advanced stuff like that just with a CSS style, you know.
Okay, would you then inject that CSS while loading the form?
Yep. I think you can put this in. Of course, since we put it in the element, maybe you have to put important on it. You know, but if I did something like actually, we don't have a style here. That would have been nice if we had a style, but maybe we can do something like this. Let's put some custom CSS in the page for this. Not here. Where is the CSS?
Under advanced.
Under advanced, okay.
Yeah, and then appearance. Yep.
I was in the right side.
Nope, not appearance. SEO. Yep,
Oh,
there it is. Yep.
So let's put some style in here. And then one thing, I'm not so good at writing code anymore. So let me first, I will just find it on Google. So maybe something like this, first child or end child. I think the end child might be what I'm looking for. Something like this. So then, of course, I can target the form group. This looks like the element that has the style. And so I will target here that form group. And then let's say the first child, we need to put that style. And we need to put this important on it since it's on directly on the style of the element, we want to overwrite that. No? So this should work. Let's see. I haven't done this in a while. Yep, so it worked.
I see.
No? So now you can do it from CSS, and actually you can move all these fields anywhere. You know, so let's say without changing the layout, I want to move this job field. I want to move it at the bottom. You know? So again, I could write a style that will just let's see, form group will just move it on row, I don't know, row 7. You know, so now it just went at the bottom. You know, just by writing a CSS style. You know? So now getting all sorts of kind of layouts. It will take maybe another iteration or 2 until we have the drag and throw functionality for it. But at least like that through the CSS, you can now do any kind of layouting. And also the columns, we split it by 12 to mimic the Bootstrap Grid. You see, you can see the highlighted 12 columns. So basically what it says here, they actually count lines. You know? So from line 7 to line 13, this is how long this field should last. But if I want to make it smaller, I would say from line 9 to line 13, you know, and so on. So I can control the size here from the CSS as well. You know? So this pretty much makes it possible to create very, very complex form layouts just from CSS, which is a big changer, I would say, in terms of custom forms.
Right, that opens up a lot of possibilities.
So Bogdan, is this going to allow us to do tabs and tabs with this new layout then? Or is that something still down the road?
I think that's still something down the road. This is just for layouting in the same, let's say in the same page.
Very cool, Bogdan, very cool.
Yeah, I know I'll be using that a lot.
In the meantime, I see we have David here from Bermuda government. Hey, David, do you want to introduce yourself? I told the guys about your Banjaro questions.
Yes, always trying to push the big thing with the planting app has allowed my massive team of 2 to output quite a bit of work. And so now we're evolving into redoing the government website. And my question was, can we use Banjaro as sort of like a light CMS as our page builder? And we just push everything through it via APIs mostly. So I don't know if anyone is taking that approach on.
Has anyone in this group tried Banjaro so far or using it?
I've worked with it a bit, and I'm not in combination with Plantain app. So yeah, I've experienced it. I'm not so sure how much it buys you if you are using DNN along with a good skin that's got a lot of preset modules and code builder and so on and so forth. I think you can probably get there a lot of what you want from a production standpoint without, from my standpoint, kind of worrying about whatever conflicts Banjaro may or may not cause going down the road in the future.
Yeah, because I know Bogdan mentioned to us the other day about this TooSexy system,
Yeah.
which we're starting to look at. Because the main thing is I don't want my backend developers touching front end at all. So I don't want something which is too complex because we're in an environment where we have to turn things over quick. So, and also standardize and reuse templates as much as possible. So just sort of really trying to nail down what front end tool to use where we're not doing too much heavy coding.
Yeah, I use TooSexy a fair amount. And if what you're looking to do is have structured content that you can give to a non-developer to simply update and or implement, that's a really good option. You can have your developers, you can customize the TooSexy layouts the way you want, name things the way you want, and then they simply can go in and click and drag and drop, copy and paste, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because also looking at, because I have one guy who's a front end developer and another one on my team who's training up to be more of an interactive front end. So I'll be looking at them to build a front page, the front facing, and hook into the back end stuff. So that's kind of what I'm looking to achieve. And so the content people, they just deal with putting stuff into the just putting their content into appropriate fields and stuff. So they don't have to touch any layout elements.
Yeah. TooSexy will definitely get you there if you want that.
Okay. Yeah, we just learned about it yesterday. So I've been spending some time looking at it. So I'll assign my 2 team members to really deep dive in it and get a sandbox set up for them.
We had a look at TooSexy and ended up not using it. We've put more time into the OpenContent module for structured content because we don't want our end user and our business owners to be messing around with the layout of pages and doing things like that. So we've been using OpenContent both with its own internal data management, but also using Razor templates, rather than handlebars templates, which gives you access to the full data behind. So you can switch off the editing element of OpenContent and just have it sucking data out of tables and databases, and you get that nice rendering and the flexibility there. So you can have, you know, a plant and app type interface for them to enter their content, and then the OpenContent modules just suck it out and render it however you want.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking into the Razor. So, you know, because my team, we've only been using DNN for not quite 2 years, and we were thrown into DNN at the height of COVID. So I'm sure we're probably like a worst case scenario for Bogdan and Patrick, because I mean, it's been an insane and rapid evolution, but definitely open content. Can somebody send me the link to that? Because I'm not familiar with that. So
yeah, I'll see if I'll dig that out and stick it in the comments. Yeah, one of our developers comes from a PHP background, and you know, done a lot of what should I say, code-based development, and she's taken to Razor, just writing Razor scripts very quickly. So I have to dissuade her from going off with a blank Visual Studio Code screen and Razor from doing these things, because you've got a maintenance problem. But you can do an awful lot with that as well. But I'll dig out that link and stick it in.
yeah, actually, Patrick just put it into the chat.
Oh, okay,
so.
I missed that. Cool.
I got that right, correct, Jim?
Yeah, I believe so. Looks good
Yep.
to me.
Yep.
I just want to chime in. I've been doing a fair amount of structured content with Plant and App. You know, I can make a form to collect the user input and then present it either in another form, that maybe in a static text box with some SQL that's driving what gets put in there, or I use a lot of action grids or listings modules. So I've been able to accomplish quite a bit of that without going to an external or extra module like TooSexy.
Yeah, okay.
Especially with the dynamic forms capability, it can have a repeating effect, just like what you're looking for. So there's a lot of strength right here in the tools in Plant and App.
Yeah, we've found that when you're wanting to use a range, you know, things like masonry layouts and, you know, all these fancy twisty spinny JavaScript things, and having things flying in from left, right, and wherever, which the designers seem to like, that it's easier to use something like OpenContent. But no, I think the Bootstrap 5 will give us a lot more flexibility in making listings look a lot less like listings.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, because I'm still researching it, and obviously we're a government site, so we're not going to have too many things swirling and all that, because now with 60+% of our users being mobile, 90% of that is smartphone. So obviously we have to focus on the mobile interface first, and then scale it up for desktop. But yeah, so we're sort of really in the beginnings of working out our standards and stuff. Well, we've got to do a lot of heavy testing, because as you know, as a government, we have to be accessible, etc. So yeah, we can't be picky on who comes to our site. So, but the main thing is I want to split the back end to the front end as much as possible, so that they focus on functionality, and I have the other team do the presentation and the interface. So, because I think that for us would be a much faster workflow. And
going back to a conversation in one of these previous ones about using multiple portals, what we've got to set up in a couple of applications where we have a separate portal where admins and business owners do stuff, and we have another portal that is a much more of a public portal. that pulls data out of tables, because obviously all the tables are accessible. So that's if you're wanting to get that separation between people consuming and people creating. That's quite a nice way of doing it. So you could use Plant and App to manage the collection of the data, and then on the other portal use whatever structured content tools you want to use, and just reference those tables, and you get a nice separation.
And we seem to be heading down that road, but we just sort of got to very quickly figure out how we're going to architect it, because we have a consultant that's going to be working with us on some of these things. So, but yeah, it's kind of early days, and Bug is used to us. Everything we have to do fast. But yeah, but thanks for this. I'll definitely be looking into it very quickly, because obviously I have to make decisions in like the next month as usual, and then drive the training and orientation on the team afterwards. Yeah, and COVID's really sort of screwed up all our timelines, so it's kind of crazy.
Yep.
Okay.
When it's all done, Jim, if you kind of circle back and let us know how you did and what you did, be interesting to hear this from kind of cradle to grave.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
and
David,
obviously
sorry.
for me, it'll be documenting all of this stuff as well. So
Yeah, cool.
yeah, thanks for that input.
Okay, so let's see. Anything else you want to cover on where was the 119 stuff? Any other questions, or do we move to the rest of the topics that are here in the backlog? Cool. So let's see. I think this one is very relevant to 119 as well. Glyph icon versus font awesome. I see Matt brought this out, and actually we are removing Glyph icons from our modules. So I think this is very timely. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's already marked as obsolete inside the module. So let's look at a listing. So a button. Yeah, so it's already marked as obsolete for us. So we are switching to support the font awesome, and we also support Bootstrap, material icons. So that's another library. I think it's the same thing with it's a font-based solution, and I think that one is also very well. And I think we are including it on the front end as well, so you can start using it. It's much more modern. So let's look a bit over it. Is this the right thing? This is the right thing. No, so again, it's a Google font. It has lots of options. Font Awesome has the advantage that it has a commercial version where you get a lot more icons, of course. But this feels like a very complete data set as well with material icons. So that's another option to look at. I'm not sure if any of you ever used it. Yeah, and I can put the link in the chat as well. So does that help you make a decision, Matt?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Question, Bogdan, if you wanted to use those material icons, would you just link those in through the CSS?
So let's see how they are being used. So I think you need to put special classes. I think that's how you'd use them, and with the text inside them. that's how it knows how to target it.
Okay.
So if you need to use them like in custom places, you can do that. Otherwise, we don't have it in the UI right now. So you saw the UI, it's using font awesome. And actually we are looking at what was in Tabs Pro, we actually have a font awesome picker. So actually we want to bring that into the form as well. Let me see if I can find it here in a listing somewhere. Tabs. Yes, I think here for tabs, we can have font awesome icons. So here we do have some kind of picker, so you don't have to know the class. You just click it and it goes there. So I think that's, we'll bring this into all places where we support font awesome. And maybe we even do something like this. You see here in tabs, we went much further with this setting, being able to do it from file, from an image. And here, for example, custom font icon, add the element. So here you can actually put the entire HTML code. So I think if we were to grab this code from here, we'd be able to use it here. Let's check this. No, he didn't bring it into the tab, but I think that was, or maybe it's not loaded on this page. I'm not sure. But there are custom, and there are many such libraries like font-based icon libraries. I muted Mark. Okay, and then you can do it like this, but here probably on this page it's not included yet. No. And like that, you can include any font library if you want to go a different one as well. Okay. Oh, interesting one. Inception kind of question. Nested dynamic forms. Has anyone tried it?
We've tried it once. One of our team was brave enough to fight their way through, and they didn't get it to work. But he's not terribly keen to repeat the experience of building it. But it was possible.
Anything in particular, Matt, you are interested about?
No, to be quite honest with you, Bogdan, it was a while ago and I kind of forgot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unless everybody else, you don't have to get wrapped around the axle over it. I was just, it was at the time, it was a timely question, but perhaps not so much anymore. I guess one of the big things would be keeping, getting the field IDs to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little bit of a challenge, but yeah.
Cool.
We've always found another way of doing it without having to fight our way through it before. So actually set the task of making it work.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, poor Yi, he's got it to work, but not keen to do it again if he doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's write down for posterity. It is possible, but only for the bravest one.
So Bogdan, I have a question for you. Earlier, you were making notes on the slide when we were talking about TooSexy and OpenContent, and your comment was that OpenContent being easier to integrate with the PA data structure. Is that a statement of fact? Is that your opinion? Kind of, or what's your thoughts on that?
I haven't tried it. That was something that I picked from Jim.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It was, certainly wasn't a head-to-head comparison, and we didn't carefully evaluate both of them. We had a look at TooSexy and felt that it was more effort than what we were currently doing, and didn't gain us enough to put that effort in. But I think if you were coming at it completely fresh, with no preconceptions, both of them have got a learning curve. I would argue that the open content learning curve is shallower than TooSexy, but again, it's not a scientific assessment.
Yep.
Yeah, no, understood. I appreciate that, though. Thank you for the perspective.
Yeah. So my feeling, so our website uses TooSexy Content mainly because Aaron Lopez helped us build it. It was his preferred tool, and as long as it was editable for us, it was fine. But here, for example, on this page, the data on this page lives in a different system. So he was able to bring it via an API from a different system. But it's not a built-in feature in TooSexy Content. I think he had to do something in Razor or even JavaScript. I'm not sure if he does it via JavaScript. Let's see. Maybe it's all fully JavaScript solution. No, it's not JavaScript. So he's doing probably a server request from Razor to bring the content. So you can still do it. You can still call custom data, but I think it would be nice to have a built-in connector for TooSexy Content for accessing the data, because most of our customers, they don't use the TooSexy Content data structure. No. They would like to use the templates that TooSexy Content comes with, the layouting and the UI, but have the data implanted. That would be the ideal solution. But I know for a fact from many people that implemented TooSexy Content that it was optimized to be easy on the data structure for people managing the content. So you have simple forms; they don't need to know the layouting and everything. But for the people that implement the templates, it's heavy development work.
So when you compare the end result of TooSexy to OpenContent, are they similar? Does one, from a presentation standpoint, stand out above the other? What's the thoughts here?
I haven't used OpenContent, but I'm curious to hear others that use it.
My impression is that TooSexy is a much broader toolkit. OpenContent is a record rendering solution that you write templates in. It has its own concept of a data store that can be held in the module, or it can link to external data using Razor templates. But it's really quite a simple tool for creating rendering content on a page using a template. My impression is that TooSexy as a platform is much bigger.
Yeah. And actually, we are looking to integrate something like, let's see. I have an example here, I think. How can I see it? It's been a while since I looked at this. We want to integrate a UI library for ourselves. Let's see, how can I see this application? Application info, come on. Details. I can't find the link to see the application. I think they also had a free demo somewhere. That's weird. Okay, let's see if we can find a demo. think they call it page builder, and this is the we have an add-on for them for the email. So they also have a powerful email email template. But why can't we find it? Okay, I'm sorry about that, but it's very cool. It's one of those drag and drop kind of very visual things. But I think we looked at other libraries as well. Let's see if I have some visited links in here. I think we have a research data somewhere, but just looking at this kind of experience, this is where we want to go as well in Panther, because yes, custom UIs comes up a lot, and being able to do something like drag and drop style and editing is something that we want to have as well. So it's coming, just to let you know. Because for us, we already have the data layer figured out, the content management, very powerful functionalities that you can build on the data management side. But on the UI side, of course, we only have the listing to display data out of the box or the forms. And then, of course, you are up to writing custom Razor script for everything else.
And I know for us, we're looking to not have the users anywhere near this type of thing. We're focusing on a headless content system to push content into the layouts.
Yep. So here will be like a front-end developer doing the layouting, and then of course the data will be maybe just the variables or something like that. Right, David? That will be your ideal.
Yes, yeah, and it'll be all API driven, so that yeah. So and it also simplifies the data entry interface for the end users. So so we're looking to get as much flexibility with where that content flows, because we're using a create once, publish everywhere kind of a model is the goal.
Cool. So
Ogden, as you're getting ready to integrate one of those tools, I mean, the integration time to get it into Planted App is going to be lengthy, but will you know how far in advance will you know which road you're taking, that we can start, not exploring the road that will be, that will be the future, as opposed to playing with 4 or 5 different ones?
Yeah. I think I will definitely, when we start seriously thinking, planning it, I think I'll bring it to this group, the candidates that we are looking at, and get your input on things. Cool. So I think let's wrap it up. Just a couple of minutes over time. Next week we'll be back with Dale as usual, holding this webinar, this meeting. We will stick around after we end recording. So if you want to stick around, discuss more things, let's say in a private manner, more private manner, please stick around. Otherwise, we'll be seeing you next week, same day, same hour.